Ladies and gentlemen, it is finally here. Wladimir Klitschko, David Haye, for a good portion of the heavyweight title. Um, this is probably one of the most significant heavyweight title fights in quite a long time. You have Wladimir Klitschko, who, along with his brother, have been running the heavyweight division for the past several years. Um, a lot of the competition has been European based, with your little bit of Americans thrown in there who have not succeeded, at least in recent years, against the Klitschkos. So in comes David Haye, who is a guy coming up from cruiserweight, and he's not your as far as his size is concerned, he's not your typical heavyweight. I mean, you got another guy there with like Adamek, Thomas Adamek, who came up from cruiserweight as well, and isn't a huge heavyweight, but has good skill, good boxing skills, and I guess in comparison to Hayes got pretty good speed at heavyweight, and he's got pretty good powers, at least from what we've been able to see with the stock of guys he's fought. I mean, he fought Valuev, who's pretty much an ogre, but managed to hurt him in the end of the fight. So, and with that being said too, I think looking into this fight, the actual build-up is exciting. As recent as the face-off that they premiered, I believe last weekend, but it leaked on the net before that. One of the best face-offs to date, and really, and I give credit to David Haye for that, man, because I mean he really turned it up as far as like getting at Vlad, and you could see Vlad at some point just had this like smirk, like I don't know if that's because he doesn't, English is like probably his third or fourth language, but you could, like David Haye saying that he said in the face off, man, you could cut the tension with a knife. And I believe both of these fighters genuinely do not like each other. I mean, I think that's pretty evident. This has been going on for the past couple of years, the beef between really both Klitschkos and Haye, and it's finally going to happen. This fight was supposed to happen, I believe, last year, but David Haye pulled out of the fight due to an injury. But he looks really, I mean, I want to say he looks really focused. He looks very confident at being the guy who he says is going to beat this version of Wladimir Klitschko. Now, the thing with Wladimir Klitschko that we've pretty much have gotten used to seeing him do is just methodically breaking these fighters down. Jab, 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 straight right. And the thing is, a lot of these fighters, man, I think they're in there for a paycheck. They're in there, I guess trying to sell the fight as much as possible. But look, man, it's gonna take a special fighter to beat the Klitschkos now. I mean, you had guys like Corey Sanders and Brewster who were able to take advantage of the mistakes that at least Vlad would make. But since then, Manuel Stewart's been able to fine-tune Wladimir into really a boxing machine. But the downside to it is that it hasn't turned into exciting fights, which is really a main cause of why there's no excitement, or there's nothing really going on in the heavyweight division, because most of the Klitschko fights, at least speaking for Vlad, I mean, Vitaly's been in exciting fights, but Wladimir, for some reason, and you've seen it in cases where Manuel Stewart's in the corner telling him, like, dude, you got to turn it up. You can't keep winning these mediocre unanimous decisions and expect to be getting paid a lot of money. And really, I think that's a huge reason why they fight in overseas, because they got a big fan base. You know what I'm saying? They got a huge fan base, and it wouldn't make sense for them to like really just come over here thinking they can pull the numbers here like they do over there. I mean, it's not gonna happen. So you know, I mean, the Klitschkos, they got a big fan base, like I said. And the thing with David Haye is that I don't want to play a comparison game as far as who's got the bigger fan base or not, but I think more so than ever, the UK fans and really fans abroad are really paying close attention to this fight simply because we know what can happen to Wladimir Klitschko. We've seen him fall to much lesser opponents than David Haye. Okay, you had a guy, Corey Sanders, who was a part-time golfer that ended up winning the heavyweight title. And, you know, I want to think David Haye's a better fighter than he is. The question really ends up coming down to, can David Haye take Wladimir Klitschko's punches? Because regardless if you think Klitschko's a stiff fighter, he's a boring fighter, he's still 6'7", 6'8", or whatever, 270 pounds of straight power coming right at your face, man. That's something really hard to overcome after you get hit several times from either guy. So, how's this fight going to play out? Okay, well, again, and this is why I'm talking about pre-excitement prior to the bell ringing. Okay, I think David Haye is going to be a lot more cautious than people may think right now. You know, if people think he's going to rush in and try to clobber Klitschko like that, it's not going to happen, okay? Klitschko, is a lot smarter than that. Manuel Stewart is a much better trainer than him letting his fighter just willingly let David Haye into brawl. Now, side note, there have been reports that Wladimir Klitschko has been saying that that Manuel Stewart doesn't run the camp. It's Vlad's time. Now, anybody who's been a professional fighter, a trainer, or whatnot, that is almost the sin of all sins to say in preparation for a fight. No fighter should be in charge of his camp, okay? Now, you know, you take guys like Pacquiao and Cotto and Floyd Mayweather and this guys who are top-notch guys, okay? Now, with the exception of Cotto, because Cotto fell victim to this too. Though these guys are big-time athletes and their egos are way above, come training camp, man, it's a whole nother story, okay? If you think that Mayweather is the one guiding these camps as far as, like, telling his camp, okay, I want to do this, that, and the third, this, that, and the third, listen, man. These guys are trained sometimes even year-round, and you need somebody there to keep you on your toes and to keep you in a position where you're not overlooking the fighter and you're letting your ego, you know, get the best of you, okay? Now, that's not to say that that's never happened in any professional prize fight or happened to any fighter, but for Klitschko to be telling Emmanuel Stewart that in a situation like this is just giving me the feeling that he may be taking David Haye for granted. So, take that with a grain of salt, but it's something a little interesting I found reading up to the lead up to this fight. Now, who do I think is going to win this fight? I'm going to go with Wladimir Klitschko, man. Now, listen. Conventional wisdom will tell you, you know, the hungry fighter sometimes, you know, like the old saying goes, every dog has his day. But you can't negate the fact that this is still Wladimir Klitschko. This is still a guy who's got a hell of a reach advantage over David Haye, has a hell of a power advantage, and, you know, the question mark is, can he take a shot from David Haye? I think he could. Throughout the course of the fight, if and when David Haye gets hit, and trust me, he's going to get hit in this fight, is he going to keep pressing forward and applying pressure to Wladimir Klitschko after he starts getting hit with straight jabs, straight right hands, coming right down the pipe? And does David Haye is he really going to rush in and try to get inside on Klitschko? Which, on paper seems like the logical thing because the key is getting inside on those dudes. But what are you going to do when you get there? And I really just don't see David Haye applying that much offense or really even being very defensive to ward Klitschko off to really win it on points. I just don't see it happening. David Haye himself is not a very super active fighter. And I think in order for him to get inside on Klitschko is going to be a hell of a task. He's got better movement than some of these fighters that Klitschko's been facing. But I think he's still going to run into the same problem a lot of these guys end up running to. And that's that straight jab. And he doesn't throw 1-2s a lot. It's almost like he'll set you with these jabs because you're waiting for these jabs. And then out of nowhere, just hit you with a lead right. He does that a lot, and that's something, it's kind of hard to time because, again, his jab rivals some of these other fighters' right hands, because of their size. I mean, let's keep it real. But with that being said, man, I see Klitschko winning this fight. I see him stopping David Haye towards the end of the fight. I wouldn't be surprised if David Haye just scoots around for 12 rounds and makes it a very inactive fight, so to speak. But I think part of him believes he can knock Klitschko out. And I think that is probably going to not play in his favor. And I don't see David Haye winning this fight. I got Wladimir Klitschko winning by a late stoppage. In not a very super exciting fight. Again, that's why I mentioned the pre-fight hype. I think is gonna overshadow with the actual fight, maybe. But I could be wrong. It could be an exciting fight. I just not seen Wladimir Klitschko in an exciting fight to where he went on to a victory. I've seen him in exciting fights where he's lost, but I think he's gonna methodically break David Haye down. I think the size is going to be too much. I think the power is going to be a little too much for David Haye to handle. And I expect him to get stopped in this fight. And where do we go from here with the heavyweight division? Nowhere. So let me know what you guys think, man. I have Wladimir Klitschko winning this fight by a late stoppage on David Haye. So let me know what you guys think, and I'll be back shortly. Peace.